This is Michael Luchies, and I'm joined by Isabelle Rizzo from the BellaVie.com. Isabelle, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing great, thanks. Let's talk about blogging for entrepreneurs. Now, it seems like everyone has a blog. Is it still important for entrepreneurs and startups to have a blog, or can they still market their business effectively without one?
I think that's a really great question, and I think it can go both ways. Definitely having a blog will help not just with positioning yourself as an expert, but also with your Google rankings, and will give you content that you can share on your social media. So that's why I blog. If somebody's just starting out, I definitely recommend sharing their wisdom in a blog and answering questions via blog posts. But you don't necessarily have to blog. If anything, having a mailing list and sharing a mailing list link on social media is another way to just reach out to people specifically for answering questions. But if you're just starting out, I recommend getting some content up on a blog to position yourself as an expert in a niche.
Blogging or social media, which is more beneficial for a business, and should they be done together, or do you feel that they're completely separate efforts for a business?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, based off the first question, blogging definitely goes together with social media because that's where your content's going to come from, unless you have amazing graphics or infographics or YouTube videos or something like that. But your social media is the way that you're going to reach out to potential clients, but also people that can just position, or people that can just see that you're an expert in that field. So blogging is just another form of content marketing, and social media is your delivery system.
Now, I often run into entrepreneurs who say they don't have anything to talk about, especially if they're just getting started. What topics should an entrepreneur start with when they're starting to write?
Absolutely. Great question. And I get that a lot too. It's like, I'm just starting. I'm not an expert in anything. Other entrepreneurs are always interested in what books and resources they're getting started in. And many people, if they're hanging out in Facebook groups or they're hanging out on Twitter, they're seeing that they're sharing other people's content that's just really valuable. For example, I just read a really, really great book on branding, and I'm always learning all the time. And as an entrepreneur, you always have to be learning all the time. And I got some really great takeaways that I thought would be really beneficial for my niche and the people that I work for. So I posted a little bit of a review and some takeaways based on that book. So if you want to share, if you're just starting, just your journey being an entrepreneur or starting your own business, resources that you find really inspiring, or even how, switching from entrepreneur mindset to before entrepreneur mindset, blogging about that, and going to conferences, going to workshops, what adventures you're on as an entrepreneur. People want to know how people get started. Like, that's one of the first questions I ask other entrepreneurs, like, how in the world did you get to where you are today? So even interviewing, one of the first things I did with blogging was interviewing people that I admired what they did. And I say, hey, I have a blog and I'd love to interview you. And I'd get some interviews from people, get some good ideas from there. And also I'd ask what people were interested in on Twitter, on Facebook, do a little bit of market research. If I'm a graphic designer, for example, I'll say, I really like this artist and this is what elements I love about their art. And then you can tweet that to that person. Or you can say, this book is an excellent read because of this and this and this, and this is what I learned from this and this and this book. And then have an example graphic design that you made. So there's lots of different things, even if you're just starting out, that you can offer value in.
But you and I talked just a little bit about this before our call here. Now, we blog to provide value, but leads and sales have to be a part of the process somewhere down the line. Mm-hmm. How can entrepreneurs who are blogging work in calls to action and capitalize on what they are providing to their audience?
Yeah. So at the end of every blog post, I ask myself, what is the purpose of this blog post? And I say, is it a call to action to sign up for my newsletter, or is it for a sale? Is it just to establish myself as an expert, or is it kind of more behind the scenes to get to know me? And those are usually the three things that I do. And when I'm talking about, leads and sales, I use the content that I create to share in Facebook groups, to share on Twitter, and then people start saying, hey, she's posting useful stuff. Maybe I should get in touch with her about this issue that I'm having, or I need a little bit of picking her brain or picking their brain for content marketing strategy, or this person has graphic design stuff. I want to pick their brain on graphic design stuff, because I'm sure, as you know, I think we talked about it too at the conferences, you have to see a brand 7 times before you click on anything. So you are your brand in this case, and having that content to back up what you're saying eventually does lead to leads and sales. And just that's why I just keep preaching offer value, because people see that that's your marketing. And if your free stuff is that good, imagine, oh my gosh, if their free stuff is that good, how good is their paid stuff?
Now, I'm going to recommend anyone listening to check out Isabelle's 5 key elements you need to have on your blog, and that's on BellaVie.com. But why don't you give us a couple of additional tips for startups and entrepreneurs looking into blogging and content marketing?
Yeah, so this is something that the last year or so I've implemented, and it just saves more time, and it kind of gives me more focus into what exactly I should blog about. Doing some SEO keyword research, and it's a free keyword tool on Google, finding out what people are exactly searching for. So if you're for example, tech startup that makes apps for female clothing companies, you're going to find out what are female clothing company people looking for, like they want to order something for their app. So you're going to do a keyword search for popular clothing shops or online clothing stores for women, and then you'll get a whole bunch of keywords that come up, and you want to use kind of medium and high value keywords, and everything just kind of, you'll see it on keyword search tool on Google, but you don't want to use super high, because that's like super saturated with a bunch of other content. You want to get medium so that you can kind of grow a little bit more in Google rankings that way. But using those keywords, you can collect like 50 to 100 of those keywords, and that's going to be your inspiration for your blog posts. And I've been using that too for creating blog posts for myself, instead of just blogging for the sake of blogging. And the other thing too, if you're using WordPress, using the Yoast plugin, it's YOAST plugin. That way it'll kind of grade you based on the keywords that you have in your blog post. So if you have enough keywords for female fashion, you want to use that sprinkled throughout, your blog post, but not in an obnoxious way either. You want to just, put it in just enough. And Yoast will give you a grade based on how much you use that word. So that's just a really simple, quick way that you can start curating blog post ideas for if you're an entrepreneur or a startup. So actually figuring out what exactly people are Googling you for, and then being that expert in that niche, if that helps.
And how can people find out more about you, Isabelle?
So if anybody wants to get in touch with me, my website is theBellaVie.com. You can tweet at me at BellaVie92, and feel free to send me an email. I always love hearing from people or other entrepreneurs or any other people with cool stories at theBellaVie Project at gmail.com.
Great. Well, it's been Michael Luchies with Isabelle Rizzo. Isabelle, thanks again for your time, and good luck with everything with the BellaVie and everything else you're working on.
Thank you.